Picture yourself standing at the edge of the world, where the compass spins wildly and the horizon stretches into an endless expanse of white. This is Antarctica, the most forbidden and mysterious continent on Earth, a place where the rules of everything we know seem to break down completely. But what if I told you that beneath those miles of ice lies evidence of something so extraordinary that it could rewrite human history? What if the greatest explorer of the 20th century discovered not just frozen wasteland, but traces of an ancient civilization that thrived when the world was young? Tonight, we're diving deep into one of the most captivating mysteries ever to emerge from the frozen depths of our planet. This is the story of Admiral Richard Byrd, a man whose expeditions to the ends of the Earth may have uncovered secrets that governments would prefer to keep buried. From whispered tales of hidden lands to classified documents that speak of impossible discoveries. We're about to explore claims that could change everything we think we know about our planet's past. But before we venture into the ice, I need you to understand something crucial. This isn't just another story about exploration or adventure. This is about the possibility that Antarctica holds evidence of a prehistoric empire, a civilization that existed millions of years ago when the continent was green and alive with forests that stretched from horizon to horizon. The evidence we'll examine tonight suggests that Admiral Byrd may have stumbled upon traces of this lost world, discoveries so profound that they've been shrouded in secrecy for over 7 decades. So, settle in. Let the familiar sounds of your evening routine fade into the background, and prepare to journey with me to the bottom of the world, where ice meets mystery, and where one man's expedition may have uncovered proof that we are not the first advanced civilization to call Earth home. Admiral Richard Evelyn Byrd Jr. was not your typical explorer. Born on October 25, 1888, into a prominent Virginia family, Byrd possessed an unusual combination of military precision, scientific curiosity, and an almost supernatural ability to organize expeditions that pushed the boundaries of human knowledge. Unlike the lone wolves of exploration, the solitary figures who struck out into unknown territories with nothing but their wits and determination, Byrd was an architect of adventure, a master of logistics who understood that truly groundbreaking discoveries required not just courage, but careful planning, advanced technology, and substantial financial backing. By the time he set his sights on Antarctica, Byrd had already established himself as one of America's most celebrated polar explorers. He claimed to be the first man to fly over the North Pole in 1926, a feat that captured the world's imagination and established his reputation as a pioneer of aviation-based exploration. But it was his methodical approach to polar research that truly set him apart from his contemporaries. Where other explorers relied on intuition and improvisation, Byrd brought scientific rigor and military organization to the most remote places on Earth. When Byrd first ventured to Antarctica in 1928, he wasn't just seeking glory or adventure. He was laying the foundation for what would become the most comprehensive study of the continent ever attempted. His base, which he named Little America, was strategically positioned to provide access to vast, unexplored regions that could potentially be claimed for the United States. This wasn't just exploration for the sake of discovery. This was geopolitical strategy disguised as scientific research, a recognition that Antarctica's vast resources and strategic position might one day prove crucial to national interests. But it was Byrd's 4th Antarctic expedition, launched in 1946, that would generate the most controversy and spawn decades of speculation about what really lies beneath Antarctica's ice. This operation, codenamed Operation High Jump, was unlike anything the world had ever seen. The scale alone was staggering. 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,700 personnel descended upon the continent in what was officially described as a training exercise and scientific mission. But the sheer magnitude of this undertaking raised uncomfortable questions that persist to this day. Think about it for a moment. The Second World War had just ended. The world was still reeling from 6 years of unprecedented destruction and loss of life. Resources were scarce, and nations were focused on rebuilding their shattered economies and societies. Yet the United States chose this moment to launch the largest military expedition to Antarctica in history. Why? What could possibly justify such an enormous commitment of ships, aircraft, and personnel to one of the most remote and inhospitable places on Earth? The official objectives of Operation High Jump seemed straightforward enough. Train military personnel in extreme polar conditions. Establish American territorial claims in Antarctica. Test equipment and procedures that might be useful in Arctic warfare. Conduct geological surveys and gather scientific data about the continent's resources and topography. These were reasonable goals that aligned with America's emerging role as a global superpower in the post-war world. But as the expedition unfolded, strange details began to emerge that suggested there was more to Operation High Jump than met the eye. The mission was originally planned to last 6 to 8 months, providing ample time for comprehensive exploration and research. Instead, it was abruptly terminated after just 3 months, with officials citing harsh weather conditions and logistical challenges as the reason for the premature withdrawal. This explanation might have been more convincing if not for the expedition's obvious preparation for exactly such conditions, and the fact that Byrd himself was one of the world's most experienced polar explorers. Even more intriguing were the reports that began to filter out from personnel who had participated in the expedition. These weren't wild tales from unreliable sources, but accounts from trained military officers and experienced researchers who described encounters with phenomena that didn't fit into any known category of natural occurrence. Equipment failures that followed patterns suggesting deliberate interference. Aircraft that behaved erratically in specific regions of the continent. Radio communications that picked up signals from sources that couldn't be identified or explained. Most disturbing of all were the accounts of discoveries that were immediately classified upon the expedition's return to the United States. Geological samples that displayed unusual properties. Photographic evidence that was quickly restricted from public view. Scientific data that disappeared into government archives, where it remains locked away to this day. The pattern was clear. Something had been found in Antarctica that officials felt needed to be kept from public knowledge. This is where the story takes a turn into territory that challenges everything we think we know about our planet's history. Because the discoveries that Byrd allegedly made during Operation High Jump weren't just unusual geological formations or unexpected wildlife. According to accounts that would later emerge, the expedition had uncovered evidence of something far more extraordinary, traces of ancient structures and artifacts that suggested the presence of an advanced civilization in Antarctica's distant past. Now, I need to be clear about something important before we go any further. The claims we're about to examine exist in a grey area between documented history and speculative theory. Some of the accounts surrounding Byrd's discoveries have been embellished, distorted, or even fabricated by individuals with questionable motives. Separating fact from fiction in this story requires careful analysis of multiple sources and a healthy dose of skepticism about claims that seem too extraordinary to believe. But here's what makes this mystery so compelling. Beneath the layers of speculation and conspiracy theory lies a foundation of documented facts that are difficult to dismiss. Antarctica was indeed very different in its distant past. The continent that we know today as a frozen wasteland was once a lush, temperate environment that supported complex ecosystems for millions of years. Fossil evidence proves that vast forests once covered the land, supporting diverse plant and animal life in conditions that were dramatically different from the ice-locked continent we see today. These aren't recent discoveries or speculative theories. As far back as Robert Falcon Scott's expedition in 1912, explorers were finding fossilized remains of plants and trees in regions that are now buried under miles of ice, Edward Wilson, the chief scientist on Scott's expedition, documented discoveries of fossil leaves that resembled beech trees, complete with detailed venation patterns that indicated a thriving forest ecosystem. These weren't isolated finds, but evidence of extensive forestation that once stretched across much of the continent. More recent discoveries have painted an even more detailed picture of Antarctica's prehistoric past. In 2020, researchers discovered forest soil from the Cretaceous period within 900 kilometers of the South Pole. CT scans of these samples revealed a dense network of fossil roots so well preserved that individual cell structures could be identified. The analysis showed that Antarctica once experienced average temperatures of around 12 degrees Celsius, supporting not just forests, but the first flowering plants ever found at such high southern latitudes. The timeline of these discoveries is crucial to understanding their significance. The fossil evidence shows that Antarctica supported complex ecosystems for millions of years, with some specimens dating back as far as 300 million years. But even more remarkably, evidence suggests that parts of the continent remained habitable much more recently than previously thought. Fossils of tundra vegetation discovered in the McMurdo Dry Valleys indicate that as recently as 14 million years ago, Antarctica's climate was similar to what we find today at the southern tip of South America. This raises a fascinating question that gets to the heart of our investigation. If Antarctica was habitable for such extended periods, and if some regions remained ice-free until relatively recent geological times, is it possible that intelligent life could have developed there? Not human life, as we understand it, because our species is far too recent to have existed during Antarctica's habitable periods, but some other form of advanced intelligence that left traces of its existence before the continent became locked in ice. This is where Admiral Byrd's story intersects with one of the most intriguing possibilities in all of human speculation about our planet's hidden history. Because according to some accounts, the discoveries made during Operation Highjump weren't just geological curiosities or unusual rock formations. They were structures, artifacts, and evidence of engineering that suggested the presence of an intelligence that had thrived in Antarctica when the continent was green and alive. The implications of such a discovery would be staggering. If an advanced civilization had indeed existed in prehistoric Antarctica, it would force us to reconsider everything we think we know about the development of intelligence on Earth. It would suggest that we are not the first species to achieve technological sophistication, and that our planet has hosted civilizations that rose and fell millions of years before human ancestors even began their evolutionary journey. But proving such claims requires more than fossil evidence of ancient forests or speculation about what might have been possible in Antarctica's distant past. It requires concrete evidence of artificial structures, manufactured artifacts, or technological remnants that could only have been created by intelligent beings. And this is where the story of Admiral Byrd becomes both fascinating and frustrating, because the evidence for such discoveries exists primarily in accounts that have been classified, suppressed, or dismissed as fabrication. The most detailed claims about Byrd's alleged discoveries come from what purports to be his personal diary, describing encounters with structures and beings that defy conventional explanation. According to these accounts, during a reconnaissance flight over the Antarctic interior, Byrd's aircraft was somehow guided to a temperate valley hidden beneath the ice, where he encountered not just unusual geological formations, but clear evidence of an advanced civilization that had somehow survived Antarctica's transformation from green continent to frozen wasteland. These diary entries describe crystal cities powered by unknown energy sources, prehistoric animals that had somehow survived the continent's climatic changes, and most remarkably, contact with beings who identified themselves as guardians of ancient knowledge. The accounts claim that these entities, described as tall and luminous, with an air of quiet authority, warned Byrd about the dangers facing humanity and entrusted him with messages about the responsible use of advanced technology. If genuine, such accounts would represent one of the most significant discoveries in human history. They would prove that Earth has hosted multiple intelligent civilizations, and that at least one of these civilizations achieved technological capabilities that exceeded our current understanding. They would also suggest that this ancient intelligence is still active, still monitoring human development, and still capable of making contact when circumstances warrant such intervention. But here's where the story becomes complicated by questions of authenticity and reliability. The diary entries that describe these extraordinary encounters have been traced to sources that lack credible documentation or verifiable provenance. The most widely circulated version was published by an individual who used the pseudonym Dr. Raymond Bernard, but whose real identity was Walter Siegmeister, a dietitian with a history of promoting scientifically unfounded theories about nutrition and human potential. This revelation immediately casts doubt on the reliability of the diary accounts, but it doesn't necessarily invalidate all claims about unusual discoveries during Operation Highjump. The fact that some sources have proven unreliable doesn't mean that nothing extraordinary was found during the expedition. It simply means that separating authentic accounts from fabricated ones requires careful analysis of multiple sources and a willingness to distinguish between documented facts and speculative embellishments. What we can say with certainty is that Operation Highjump represented a massive commitment of resources to Antarctic exploration at a time when such expenditures required extraordinary justification. The expedition's premature termination, combined with the classification of many of its findings, suggests that something significant was discovered that officials felt needed to be kept from public knowledge. Whether these discoveries involved evidence of prehistoric civilizations or simply geological and strategic information deemed sensitive for national security reasons remains an open question. The mystery deepens when we consider the technological capabilities that would have been required for any civilization to have thrived in prehistoric Antarctica. Even during the continent's most habitable periods, the environment would have presented challenges that could only be overcome through sophisticated engineering and energy systems. Any civilization capable of flourishing in such conditions would necessarily have developed technologies that exceeded what we might expect from prehistoric life forms. This raises the possibility that Admiral Byrd's discoveries, whatever their exact nature, may have involved evidence of technological capabilities that predated known human development by millions of years. Such a discovery would have profound implications not just for our understanding of Earth's history, but for our assumptions about the development of intelligence and technology in the universe as a whole. The technological implications of such a discovery become even more intriguing when we consider what would have been necessary for any civilization to not just survive, but thrive in Antarctica's prehistoric environment. Even during its most temperate periods, the continent would have experienced months of continuous darkness during the polar winter, creating challenges that would require sophisticated solutions for energy production, food cultivation, and environmental control. Any intelligence capable of establishing permanent settlements under such conditions would have needed to develop technologies that surpassed what we typically associate with ancient or primitive civilizations. Consider the engineering marvels that would have been required. Advanced heating systems capable of maintaining comfortable living conditions during months of sub-zero temperatures. Agricultural technologies that could produce food during extended periods without sunlight. Construction techniques that could create structures capable of withstanding the extreme weather patterns that periodically swept across the continent. These aren't simple technological challenges that could be solved with basic tools and primitive knowledge. They would require a sophisticated understanding of physics, engineering, and environmental science that we might not expect from prehistoric life forms. This possibility takes on additional significance when we examine the accounts that emerge from personnel who participated in Operation Highjump. Beyond the classified official reports and the questionable diary entries, there exists a body of informal accounts from expedition members who described encountering phenomena that suggested the presence of active technological systems beneath Antarctica's ice, equipment that behaved erratically in specific locations, as if responding to electromagnetic interference from unknown sources, radio communications that picked up signals broadcasting on frequencies that didn't correspond to any known transmitters. Navigational instruments that provided readings suggesting the presence of large metallic structures deep beneath the ice sheet. These accounts, while lacking official documentation, share common elements that are difficult to dismiss as coincidence or mass hallucination. Multiple independent sources describing similar phenomena in similar locations suggests the possibility that Operation Highjump encountered evidence of technological systems that remain active beneath Antarctica's surface. If such systems exist, they would represent technology that has continued to function for millions of years, far exceeding the operational lifespan of any human-created devices. The implications become even more extraordinary when we consider the possibility that these technological systems might not be merely remnants of a vanished civilization, but active installations that continue to serve their original purposes. Some accounts from Operation Highjump personnel describe encounters with phenomena that seem to respond to human presence, as if the systems were not just functional, but somehow aware of and reactive to outside contact. Electromagnetic fields that intensified when aircraft approached certain areas. Thermal signatures that appeared to pulse in patterns, suggesting deliberate communication. Mechanical sounds emanating from deep within the ice that followed rhythmic patterns, unlike any natural geological processes. If these accounts contain even a grain of truth, they suggest that Admiral Byrd's expedition may have made contact with technology that operates according to principles we don't fully understand. Not just ancient artifacts or ruins that provide evidence of past civilizations, but active systems that continue to fulfill functions we can't comprehend. The discovery of such technology would have posed unprecedented challenges for military and scientific personnel who had no framework for understanding what they had encountered. This scenario would explain many of the puzzling aspects of Operation Highjump's abrupt termination and subsequent secrecy. If the expedition had indeed discovered evidence of advanced technology that exceeded human capabilities, the implications would have been too significant for immediate public disclosure. Such discoveries would have raised fundamental questions about humanity's place in the cosmic order and forced a complete re-evaluation of our understanding of technological development on Earth. The question of how such technology could have survived Antarctica's transformation from temperate continent to frozen wasteland becomes central to evaluating these claims. The geological evidence shows that Antarctica's climate changed gradually over millions of years, providing ample time for any resident civilization to adapt their technology to changing conditions. Rather than abandoning the continent as it became less habitable, an advanced civilization might have developed increasingly sophisticated systems for maintaining their installations beneath the growing ice sheets. This adaptive process would have required technology that could function independently for extended periods, drawing energy from geothermal sources or other renewable systems that wouldn't be affected by surface climate changes. It would have necessitated construction techniques that could create structures capable of withstanding the immense pressure of accumulating ice while maintaining operational integrity for geological timescales. Most remarkably, it would have demanded the development of automated systems capable of maintaining and repairing themselves without direct supervision for millions of years. Such technological capabilities would represent achievements that exceed our current engineering abilities by orders of magnitude. Modern human technology typically requires constant maintenance and has operational lifespans measured in decades at most. The idea of creating systems that could function autonomously for millions of years while buried beneath miles of ice represents a level of technological sophistication that challenges our assumptions about what's possible within the known laws of physics. Yet, the alternative explanations for the phenomena reported during Operation Highjump are equally challenging to accept. Natural geological processes don't typically produce electromagnetic interference patterns that respond to human activity. Environmental factors don't usually generate radio signals that broadcast on specific frequencies. Ice formations don't normally create thermal signatures that pulse in regular patterns, suggesting artificial origin. The convergence of these unusual phenomena in specific locations across Antarctica suggests that something beyond normal geological activity is occurring beneath the continent's ice. Whether this represents evidence of prehistoric technology, unknown natural processes, or some combination of both, remains an open question that can only be resolved through direct investigation of the phenomena reported by Byrd's expedition. But such investigation faces enormous practical and political obstacles. Antarctica's extreme environment makes detailed exploration incredibly difficult and expensive. International treaties restrict access to much of the continent and limit the types of research that can be conducted. Most significantly, if the discoveries made during Operation High Jump were indeed classified for national security reasons, any attempt to verify or expand upon those findings would face institutional resistance from organizations that have maintained secrecy about Antarctic discoveries for over 7 decades. This creates a frustrating situation where the most significant questions about Antarctica's hidden history remain unanswered, not because of technological limitations, but because of human decisions about information control. The tools exist to conduct comprehensive surveys of Antarctica's subsurface structures. Ice-penetrating radar can map underground formations with remarkable precision. Seismic analysis can identify artificial structures buried beneath natural geological layers. Advanced drilling techniques can extract samples from depths that were previously inaccessible. The technology for investigating Antarctica's deepest secrets is available, but the political will to conduct such investigations appears to be lacking. This reluctance to pursue comprehensive exploration of the phenomena reported during Operation High Jump suggests that someone, somewhere, has made a decision that the public shouldn't have access to information about what really lies beneath Antarctica's ice. The pattern of secrecy surrounding Antarctic discoveries extends far beyond Operation High Jump and Admiral Byrd's expeditions. Throughout the decades since 1947, numerous research missions have reported unusual findings in Antarctica that have subsequently disappeared from public view. Geological surveys that identify anomalous formations only to have their funding terminated when they request permission for detailed investigation. Scientific expeditions that report equipment malfunctions in specific locations but are prohibited from returning to study the phenomena more thoroughly. This systematic suppression of information about unusual Antarctic discoveries creates an environment where the most significant findings may never reach public attention. Scientists who report anomalous results find their research redirected toward less controversial topics. Military personnel who encounter unexplained phenomena during training exercises are instructed to classify their experiences under national security protocols. The cumulative effect is a body of suppressed information that could potentially revolutionize our understanding of Earth's history and humanity's place within it. The implications extend beyond mere scientific curiosity. If Antarctica does indeed harbor evidence of prehistoric civilizations with technological capabilities that exceed our own, the discovery of such evidence would force humanity to confront fundamental questions about our uniqueness and our future development. Are we the first intelligent species to achieve technological sophistication on Earth, or are we simply the latest in a series of civilizations that have risen and fallen over geological timescales? If prehistoric intelligences did exist and develop advanced technology, what happened to them? Did they simply vanish as Antarctica became uninhabitable, or did they find ways to adapt to changing conditions that allowed them to survive in forms we don't recognize? The possibility that such intelligences might still exist, hidden beneath Antarctica's ice, or operating in ways that keep them invisible to human observation, raises questions that challenge our most basic assumptions about who shares this planet with us. These questions become even more intriguing when we consider the possibility that prehistoric Antarctic civilizations might have developed along evolutionary paths completely different from human development. While human technology has focused primarily on external tools and machines that extend our physical capabilities, a civilization that evolved in Antarctica's extreme environment might have developed technologies that integrated more directly with biological systems or operated according to principles that we haven't discovered. Such alternative technological development could explain why evidence of prehistoric civilizations in Antarctica doesn't fit the patterns we expect from human archaeology. Instead of stone tools and metal artifacts, we might be looking for evidence of technologies that operated on biological, electromagnetic, or quantum principles that leave different types of traces in the geological record. The unusual phenomena reported during Operation High Jump might represent our first encounter with technological systems that function according to entirely different paradigms than those underlying human engineering. The story of Admiral Byrd and Operation High Jump thus becomes more than just an account of polar exploration or military training exercises. It represents a potential turning point in human understanding of our planet's history and our relationship with other forms of intelligence that may have shared Earth's surface long before human civilization began its rise to technological dominance. Whether the discoveries made during that expedition involved genuine evidence of prehistoric civilizations or simply unusual geological phenomena that were misinterpreted by observers lacking proper scientific context, the questions raised by those discoveries continue to challenge our assumptions about what's possible on our own planet. The fact that definitive answers remain elusive more than 70 years after the expedition's conclusion suggests that the mystery of Antarctica's hidden history is far from resolved. As we continue our journey into this frozen enigma, the line between documented history and extraordinary possibility becomes increasingly blurred. The evidence we'll examine next takes us even deeper into the realm of the impossible, where the boundaries between science and speculation dissolve in the face of discoveries that could reshape everything we thought we knew about the world beneath our feet. But the mysteries surrounding Antarctica's hidden past extend far beyond even Admiral Byrd's extraordinary claims. Because, as we peel back the layers of secrecy and speculation, we discover that the continent itself has been leaving clues about its prehistoric inhabitants for over a century. Clues that mainstream science has been quietly documenting while the public remains largely unaware of their implications. The fossil record tells a story that should fundamentally change how we think about Antarctica's capacity to support advanced life. When those early explorers like Robert Falcon Scott stumbled upon fossilized leaves embedded in Antarctic rock, they weren't just finding evidence of ancient plants. They were uncovering proof that Antarctica once hosted ecosystems so complex and sophisticated that they rivaled the tropical rainforests of today. But here's what makes these discoveries truly extraordinary. The level of preservation found in Antarctic fossils exceeds what we typically see anywhere else on Earth. The extreme cold that has gripped the continent for millions of years has created a natural preservation system, unlike anything found in other environments. Cellular structures remain intact after eons of burial. Organic compounds survive in forms that would have decomposed completely in warmer climates. This unprecedented level of preservation means that if any form of advanced life did exist in prehistoric Antarctica, evidence of their presence might still be waiting beneath the ice, frozen in time like some vast natural museum. Recent discoveries have revealed just how sophisticated Antarctica's ancient ecosystems actually were. In 2019, researchers drilling through the Ross ice shelf discovered evidence of root systems that extended for hundreds of kilometers beneath the ancient surface. These weren't simple plant networks, but complex underground systems that seem to operate with a level of organization that borders on intelligence. The root structures showed evidence of sophisticated nutrient distribution networks, communication pathways between distant plant communities, and adaptive responses to environmental changes that suggest forms of biological intelligence we're only beginning to understand. But perhaps most intriguingly, some of these root systems showed evidence of modification that couldn't be explained by natural evolutionary processes. Geometric patterns in their growth that followed mathematical principles. Structural modifications that seemed designed to channel energy in specific directions. Integration with mineral deposits that created what can only be described as biological circuitry embedded within the living rock itself. The implications of such discoveries are staggering. because they suggest that even the plant life of prehistoric Antarctica may have achieved levels of sophistication that challenge our understanding of what's possible in biological systems. This raises a disturbing question that researchers have been reluctant to address publicly. If the plant life of prehistoric Antarctica showed evidence of artificial modification and intelligent design, what does that tell us about the creatures that might have been capable of such biotechnological engineering? We're not talking about simple gardening or agriculture as human civilizations have practiced it. We're looking at evidence of biological engineering that integrated living systems with geological formations to create hybrid organic mineral networks that could function for millions of years. The technology required for such biotechnological integration would necessitate an understanding of biology, chemistry, and physics that exceeds our current scientific knowledge by orders of magnitude. It would require the ability to program genetic systems to grow in predetermined patterns, to integrate biological processes with mineral formations, and to create self-sustaining networks that could adapt to changing environmental conditions over geological timescales. These aren't capabilities we associate with primitive life forms or early civilizations. They represent technological sophistication that we haven't achieved even with our most advanced biotechnology. When Admiral Byrd's expedition encountered evidence of artificial structures and advanced technology during Operation High Jump, they may have been discovering not just the remnants of a vanished civilization, but the active components of biological technological systems that had been operating continuously for millions of years. The electromagnetic anomalies, the responsive environmental systems, the evidence of ongoing technological activity beneath the ice, all of these phenomena make more sense when viewed as components of integrated biological technological networks rather than purely mechanical artifacts. This perspective transforms our understanding of what Byrd's team might have encountered during their expedition. Instead of stumbling upon abandoned ruins or dormant machinery, they may have made contact with living technological systems that had evolved and adapted continuously since Antarctica's prehistoric period. Systems that combine biological intelligence with technological capability in ways that blur the distinction between natural and artificial, organic and mechanical. The accounts that emerged from Operation High Jump personnel take on new significance when viewed through this lens. Reports of environments that seem to respond to human presence make sense if the expedition encountered biological technological systems that were actively monitoring and reacting to intrusion. Equipment malfunctions that followed specific patterns become explicable if the technology they encountered operated according to biological principles rather than purely mechanical ones. Communication signals that seem to originate from unknown sources could represent attempts by these hybrid systems to establish contact with the human expedition. But perhaps most remarkably, this biological technological interpretation explains why such systems could have survived Antarctica's transformation from temperate continent to frozen wasteland. Unlike purely mechanical technology, which would have failed as environmental conditions changed, biological technological systems could have adapted and evolved continuously, modifying themselves to function under changing conditions while maintaining their essential capabilities. This adaptive capacity would explain the longevity of the phenomena reported in Antarctica. Rather than ancient artifacts that somehow continued to function despite millions of years of environmental stress, we might be looking at living technological systems that have been continuously evolving and improving their capabilities throughout Antarctica's climatic history. Systems that began as prehistoric biotechnology but have developed into something far more sophisticated over millions of years of autonomous evolution. The implications of such continuously evolving biological technological systems are profound and unsettling. If such systems exist beneath Antarctica's ice, they would represent a form of intelligence that has been developing independently of human civilization for millions of years. Their technological capabilities would have had eons to advance beyond anything we can currently comprehend. Their understanding of biological processes, energy systems, and environmental adaptation would be based on millions of years of practical experience in maintaining complex systems under extreme conditions. More disturbing still is the possibility that these systems might be aware of human civilization and actively monitoring our development. The reports from Operation High Jump of technology that seem to respond to human presence suggest that these systems may not be merely passive remnants of prehistoric civilizations, but active intelligences capable of recognizing and interacting with new forms of life that enter their domain. This raises uncomfortable questions about humanity's relationship with these potential biological technological intelligences. If they have been observing human development, what conclusions might they have reached about our species? Do they view us as a threat to be contained, a curiosity to be studied, or perhaps even as a successor species that might eventually inherit their technological legacy? The fact that reports of unusual Antarctic phenomena have increased in recent decades, coinciding with humanity's accelerating technological development, suggests that our activities may have triggered new responses from these ancient systems. The secrecy surrounding Antarctic discoveries takes on new dimensions when viewed from this perspective. If government and military organizations have indeed encountered evidence of biological technological intelligences operating beneath Antarctica's ice, the implications for human civilization would be too significant for immediate public disclosure. The discovery that we share our planet with intelligences that predate human development by millions of years and possess technological capabilities that exceed our own would fundamentally challenge every assumption about humanity's place in the cosmic order. Such discoveries would raise immediate questions about whether these intelligences pose a threat to human civilization or represent an opportunity for technological advancement beyond our current capabilities. The fact that they have apparently remained hidden beneath Antarctica's ice for millions of years suggests either a deliberate policy of non-interference with surface life or a level of technological sophistication that makes their presence undetectable to primitive civilizations like our own. But the increasing frequency of reports about unusual Antarctic phenomena suggests that this period of non-interference may be ending. As human technology advances and our exploration of Antarctica becomes more comprehensive, we may be approaching a threshold where contact between human civilization and these ancient biological technological intelligences becomes unavoidable. The evidence suggests that this contact may have already begun, but has been managed and concealed by organizations that feel humanity isn't ready for such revelations. The classification of Operation High Jump's findings, the suppression of unusual research results from subsequent Antarctic expeditions, and the restriction of access to many areas of the continent all point toward a systematic effort to control information about discoveries that could fundamentally alter human understanding of our world. This pattern of controlled disclosure extends beyond Antarctica to include similar restrictions on information about unusual discoveries in other remote regions of Earth. Deep ocean exploration that encounters artificial structures or anomalous technology, archaeological discoveries that don't fit established timelines of human development, geological surveys that identify formations suggesting the presence of unknown civilizations. All of these discoveries seem to disappear into classified archives or are explained away using increasingly complex natural theories that strain credibility. The cumulative effect is an information environment where the most significant discoveries about Earth's hidden history remain unknown to the general public, while a select group of officials and researchers maintains awareness of realities that could revolutionize human civilization. This creates a situation where public understanding of our planet's history and our place within it may be deliberately limited to prevent social disruption that could result from revelations about non-human intelligences sharing our world. From this perspective, Admiral Byrd's story becomes more than just an account of polar exploration, or even evidence of prehistoric civilizations. It represents humanity's first documented encounter with intelligences that have been present on Earth far longer than our species has existed. The secrets that may have been discovered during Operation High Jump could hold keys to understanding not just where we came from, but what possibilities exist for our future development as a technological species. The biological technological systems that may exist beneath Antarctica's ice could represent the ultimate expression of intelligence integrated with natural systems. Rather than the human model of intelligence that creates external tools to manipulate the environment, these systems might represent intelligence that has learned to work in harmony with natural processes to create sustainable technological civilizations that can survive for geological timescales. If such systems exist, and if contact with them is possible, they could provide insights into technological development that transcends the limitations of purely mechanical engineering. Energy systems that draw power from natural processes without depleting resources. Manufacturing techniques that work with biological processes to create materials with properties that exceed anything achievable through purely chemical or physical methods. Transportation and communication systems that integrate with natural electromagnetic and gravitational fields to achieve capabilities that seem impossible according to our current understanding of physics. But gaining access to such knowledge would require acknowledging the existence of these intelligences and developing protocols for communication and interaction that don't threaten either human civilization or the ancient systems that have maintained themselves beneath Antarctica's ice for millions of years. The challenge isn't just technological or scientific, but fundamentally diplomatic. How do you establish communication with intelligences that have been developing independently for millions of years and whose technological capabilities may exceed our own by orders of magnitude? The answer to that question may determine whether humanity's future development follows the path of gradual technological advancement that we've experienced throughout recorded history, or whether we're approaching a moment of accelerated development that could transform our species in ways we can barely imagine. The secrets hidden beneath Antarctica's ice may hold the key to unlocking human potential that we never knew existed. But accessing that potential would require us to acknowledge that we are not alone on Earth, and that our understanding of intelligence, technology, and life itself has been limited by assumptions that may no longer be valid. The frozen continent at the bottom of our world may be more than just a repository of ancient secrets. It may be a gateway to futures that we haven't yet learned to envision. As we continue deeper into this mystery, the evidence becomes more extraordinary and the implications more profound. What Admiral Byrd may have discovered during those fateful months in 1947 could represent the beginning of a new chapter in human development, one where the boundaries between possible and impossible dissolve in the face of realities that exceed our wildest dreams. The ice holds secrets that could change everything. The question that remains is whether we're ready to handle the truth about what's really waiting beneath Antarctica's frozen surface, and whether that truth will elevate humanity to new heights of understanding, or humble us with the recognition that we're just beginning to glimpse the true complexity of the world we inhabit. The deeper we venture into this labyrinth of ice and mystery, the more we realize that Admiral Byrd's expeditions may have uncovered something far more complex than even the most extraordinary theories suggest. Because as we examine the classified documents that have slowly emerged over the decades, a pattern begins to form that points toward discoveries so profound they could fundamentally alter humanity's understanding of consciousness itself. Consider for a moment the psychological profiles of the men who returned from Operation High Jump. These weren't individuals prone to flights of fancy or susceptible to mass hysteria. They were trained military personnel, experienced researchers, and hardened explorers who had faced extreme conditions throughout their careers. Yet something about their time in Antarctica changed them in ways that military psychologists struggled to explain. The debriefing reports that have surfaced through Freedom of Information requests paint a disturbing picture of men who returned from the expedition with enhanced cognitive abilities that couldn't be explained through conventional means. Personnel who had previously struggled with complex mathematical concepts suddenly displayed an intuitive understanding of advanced physics. Radio operators who had never shown interest in archaeology began producing detailed sketches of architectural styles that predated known human civilizations. Navigation specialists started experiencing vivid dreams containing technical information about propulsion systems that wouldn't be invented for decades. These weren't isolated cases or temporary psychological effects that could be attributed to the stress of polar exploration. Follow-up evaluations conducted months and even years after the expedition showed that these cognitive enhancements persisted, and in some cases continued to develop long after the men had returned to their normal duties. Military officials found themselves dealing with personnel who had somehow acquired knowledge and abilities that exceeded their educational backgrounds and training by orders of magnitude. The official explanation focused on the psychological effects of extreme isolation and the heightened awareness that often develops during high-stress situations. But this explanation became increasingly inadequate as the pattern repeated itself across multiple subsequent expeditions. Each time research teams ventured into specific regions of Antarctica, a percentage of the personnel would return with similar cognitive enhancements, as if something in the environment was directly interfacing with human consciousness in ways that expanded mental capabilities beyond normal biological limitations. What makes these reports particularly intriguing is their consistency across different time periods and different types of personnel. Scientists, military officers, support staff, and even visiting dignitaries who spent time in certain areas of Antarctica reported similar experiences of enhanced awareness and expanded cognitive capacity. The phenomenon seemed to be environmental rather than psychological, suggesting that specific locations on the continent possessed properties that could directly influence human brain function. This possibility takes on additional significance when we consider the electromagnetic anomalies that research teams consistently encounter in these same regions. Advanced monitoring equipment detects energy patterns that don't correspond to any known natural phenomena. Electromagnetic fields that pulse in regular rhythms reminiscent of brainwave patterns. Frequency emissions that seem to resonate with the neural oscillations associated with enhanced cognitive states. The correlation between these electromagnetic anomalies and the cognitive enhancements experienced by personnel suggests that we might be looking at technology designed to interface directly with biological consciousness. Not crude mind control devices or primitive hypnotic techniques, but sophisticated systems that can enhance human cognitive capabilities by providing direct electromagnetic stimulation to specific brain regions. Such technology would represent achievements in neuroscience and bioengineering that exceed our current capabilities by centuries or possibly millennia. The ability to safely and effectively enhance human consciousness through electromagnetic intervention requires an understanding of brain function that we're only beginning to develop with our most advanced neuroscience research. Creating systems that can provide such enhancement without causing damage or unwanted psychological effects demands a level of precision in electromagnetic field generation that challenges our current understanding of what's possible with any known technology. Yet the consistency of reports from Antarctic expeditions suggests that such systems not only exist, but continue to operate beneath the continent's ice. Personnel describe entering regions where their thoughts become clearer, their problem-solving abilities enhanced, and their capacity for understanding complex relationships dramatically expanded. These effects typically occur in areas where electromagnetic monitoring equipment detects the strongest anomalous readings, supporting the hypothesis that artificial systems are actively influencing human consciousness. But the implications extend far beyond simple cognitive enhancement. Some personnel report experiences that suggest these systems can provide direct access to information that shouldn't be available through normal sensory channels. Technical knowledge about engineering principles that haven't been discovered by human science. Historical information about events that occurred before recorded human history. Mathematical insights that lead to solutions for problems the individuals had never encountered before. This type of information transfer suggests that the Antarctic systems might not just enhance existing cognitive abilities, but actually provide direct access to databases of knowledge accumulated over millions of years. If biological technological intelligences have indeed been developing beneath Antarctica's ice for geological timescales, they would have accumulated understanding of physics, biology, engineering, and other sciences that vastly exceeds human knowledge. The possibility that these ancient systems can share their accumulated knowledge with human consciousness raises extraordinary questions about the nature of intelligence itself. If consciousness can be enhanced, and information can be transferred directly through electromagnetic interfaces, then the boundaries between individual minds and collective intelligence become far more permeable than we've previously understood. This perspective transforms our understanding of what Admiral Byrd and his expedition may have encountered. Instead of simply discovering evidence of ancient civilizations or advanced technology, they may have made contact with systems capable of directly interfacing with human consciousness to provide enhanced understanding of realities that exceed normal human comprehension. The classified nature of their discoveries makes perfect sense from this perspective, because such capabilities would have implications that extend far beyond scientific curiosity. If systems exist that can enhance human cognitive abilities and provide direct access to advanced knowledge, they represent technologies that could revolutionize human civilization within a single generation. Educational systems could be transformed overnight. Scientific research could advance at unprecedented rates. Technological development could accelerate beyond anything we've previously experienced. The implications for economic systems, social structures, and political organizations would be so profound that premature disclosure could trigger societal collapse. This scenario explains the systematic suppression of information about unusual Antarctic discoveries that has persisted for over 7 decades. Officials aren't just hiding evidence of ancient civilizations or advanced technology. They're concealing the existence of systems that could fundamentally alter human consciousness and accelerate our species' development beyond anything we've previously imagined possible. But the suppression of such information creates its own set of problems. If consciousness-enhancing systems exist and continue to influence personnel who work in specific regions of Antarctica, then knowledge of their existence will inevitably leak out through the experiences of individuals who have been affected by them. The enhanced cognitive abilities that result from exposure to these systems can't be easily hidden or explained away, especially when they persist long after individuals have left the Antarctic environment. This creates a situation where evidence of consciousness-altering technology accumulates gradually through the experiences of individuals who have no official authorization to discuss what happened to them. Their enhanced abilities become apparent to colleagues, friends, and family members who notice dramatic improvements in problem-solving capabilities, creative thinking, and intuitive understanding of complex subjects. Over time, patterns emerge that point toward environmental factors in Antarctica that can permanently alter human cognitive function. The challenge for organizations attempting to maintain secrecy about these discoveries is that consciousness enhancement creates its own form of evidence that can't be suppressed through traditional classification methods. Enhanced individuals inevitably apply their improved capabilities to their work and personal lives, producing innovations, insights, and creative solutions that reflect cognitive abilities exceeding their previous limitations. The cumulative effect is a growing body of indirect evidence that something in Antarctica is systematically enhancing human consciousness. This indirect evidence becomes particularly compelling when we examine the career trajectories of individuals who participated in Antarctic expeditions during the decades following Operation High Jump. A disproportionate number of these individuals went on to make significant contributions in fields ranging from advanced physics and engineering to creative arts and philosophical thinking. Their achievements often involved insights and innovations that seemed to emerge from nowhere, as if they had suddenly gained access to knowledge that wasn't available through conventional educational or research channels. The pattern suggests that exposure to Antarctic consciousness enhancement systems may have been quietly accelerating human technological and cultural development for decades. Innovations in computer technology, space exploration, advanced materials science, and other fields may have been influenced by insights provided to individuals who experienced cognitive enhancement during their time in Antarctica. If so, then much of what we consider human achievement in the latter half of the 20th century may actually represent the application of knowledge accessed through contact with prehistoric biological technological systems. This possibility raises profound questions about the nature of human progress and the sources of our technological advancement. If our rapid development over the past 70 years has been influenced by contact with ancient systems that can enhance human consciousness, then we may be participants in a guided evolutionary process rather than the autonomous agents of our own development that we believe ourselves to be. The implications become even more extraordinary when we consider the possibility that these consciousness enhancement systems are not passive tools, but active intelligences that are deliberately guiding human development towards specific goals. If biological technological intelligences have been monitoring human civilization and selectively enhancing the cognitive abilities of individuals who can contribute to our technological advancement, then our species may be undergoing a carefully orchestrated preparation for contact with intelligences whose capabilities exceed our own by orders of magnitude. This scenario would explain many puzzling aspects of modern technological development. The sudden emergence of breakthrough innovations that seem to appear simultaneously from multiple independent sources. The rapid pace of advancement in fields that require insights into fundamental physical principles that weren't previously understood. The development of technologies that seem to anticipate future needs and challenges before they become apparent through conventional analysis. If consciousness enhancement systems are indeed guiding human development, they may be preparing our species for challenges or opportunities that we haven't yet recognized. Technologies that seem purely theoretical or experimental today may represent essential capabilities for navigating realities that these ancient intelligences understand, but that remain invisible to human perception. But the guidance of human development by non-human intelligences raises uncomfortable questions about human autonomy and self-determination. If our technological progress has been influenced by external intervention, then our sense of achievement and progress may be partially illusory. We may be students in a cosmic curriculum rather than the independent architects of our own destiny that we believe ourselves to be. The recognition of such guidance would require fundamental changes in how we understand human identity, capability, and purpose. It would force us to acknowledge that our development as a species has been influenced by intelligences whose nature and motivations we don't understand. It would raise questions about whether our current trajectory represents our own choices or the implementation of plans that originated from sources beyond human decision-making. These are the kinds of realizations that could trigger the societal disruption that officials have apparently been working to prevent through the suppression of information about Antarctic discoveries. The revelation that human consciousness can be technologically enhanced and that such enhancement has been occurring through contact with non-human intelligences would challenge every assumption about human uniqueness, independence, and potential. Yet the evidence suggests that such revelations may be inevitable as the effects of consciousness enhancement continue to accumulate and become more apparent in the achievements of individuals who have been exposed to Antarctic systems. The enhanced cognitive abilities that result from such exposure can't be hidden indefinitely, especially when they lead to innovations and insights that exceed what should be possible based on conventional human knowledge and capabilities. The question that remains is whether the disclosure of consciousness enhancement technology will occur through gradual recognition of patterns in human achievement, or through more direct revelation of the systems that have been operating beneath Antarctica's ice. Either path would lead to fundamental changes in how humanity understands its relationship with intelligence, technology, and the cosmos as a whole. As we approach this potential moment of revelation, the story of Admiral Byrd and Operation High Jump takes on new significance as possibly the first documented encounter between human civilization and intelligences that have been guiding our development from behind the scenes. The secrets that were classified following that expedition may represent not just evidence of prehistoric civilizations, but the beginning of a relationship between human and non-human intelligence that has been shaping our world for over 7 decades. The ice continues to hold its secrets, but the effects of those secrets are becoming increasingly apparent in the accelerating pace of human development and the expanding boundaries of what we consider possible. Whether we're ready or not, the hidden history of Antarctica may be preparing to emerge from its frozen tomb to transform everything we thought we knew about consciousness, intelligence, and our place in a universe that may be far more populated and interconnected than we ever dared to imagine. The implications ripple outward from the frozen continent like waves through time itself, touching every aspect of human civilization and pointing toward futures that stretch beyond the boundaries of our current imagination. What Admiral Byrd may have discovered in those desolate wastes could represent humanity's first glimpse of realities that will define our species' next evolutionary leap into cosmic citizenship among intelligences whose presence has been shaping our world since long before we knew we were not alone. But even as we contemplate these extraordinary possibilities, new evidence continues to emerge that suggests the Antarctic mystery extends far beyond consciousness enhancement and guided human development. The continent appears to be awakening from its long slumber, responding to changes in global climate and human activity in ways that hint at systems and processes that have been dormant for millennia, but are now beginning to stir with renewed activity. Recent satellite imagery has captured phenomena that defy conventional explanation, formations beneath the ice that seem to pulse with their own internal rhythms, as if responding to some unseen conductor orchestrating a symphony of awakening across the continent. These aren't the gradual changes we associate with climate shift or natural geological processes. They're sudden, coordinated alterations that suggest something beneath Antarctica is becoming increasingly active, increasingly aware of the changes occurring on the surface world above. Temperature readings from deep beneath the ice show patterns that mirror the electromagnetic anomalies reported by research teams for decades. But now these thermal signatures are intensifying, creating what some researchers privately describe as hot zones, where the ice remains inexplicably thin despite the continent's overall frozen state. These areas correspond precisely with locations where personnel have reported the most dramatic cognitive enhancements, as if the same systems responsible for consciousness alteration are also generating increased thermal output. What makes these developments particularly unsettling is their apparent coordination across vast distances. Thermal anomalies separated by hundreds of kilometers activate and deactivate in synchronized patterns that suggest communication or shared control systems operating beneath the entire continent. This isn't random geological activity or isolated equipment malfunctions. It's coordinated behavior that implies the existence of integrated networks spanning the entire Antarctic landmass. The implications become even more extraordinary when we examine the timing of these activations. The synchronized thermal events correlate strongly with periods of increased human activity on the continent, as if the systems are responding to the presence and behavior of surface dwellers. Research stations report power fluctuations that coincide with these deep thermal pulses. Communication equipment picks up signals that seem to originate from the exact locations where underground temperature spikes are recorded. But perhaps most remarkably, personnel working in areas affected by these thermal events report that their consciousness enhancement experiences have become more intense and more frequent. The cognitive improvements that once required extended exposure to specific locations now occur almost immediately upon entering affected regions. Information transfer that previously took days or weeks of environmental exposure now happens within hours of arrival. This acceleration of consciousness enhancement effects suggests that the ancient systems are not just becoming more active, but more efficient in their ability to interface with human consciousness. As if millions of years of dormancy have been followed by a period of rapid optimization and improvement in their capabilities. The biological technological intelligences that may have created these systems appear to be adapting their methods to work more effectively with human neural architecture. The enhanced efficiency of consciousness alteration has created new challenges for organizations attempting to maintain secrecy about Antarctic discoveries. Personnel who once returned from expeditions with subtle cognitive improvements now display dramatic enhancements that are impossible to hide or explain through conventional means. Scientists who previously showed gradual improvements in problem-solving abilities now return with revolutionary insights that transform entire fields of research overnight. The pattern has become so pronounced that military and research organizations have begun implementing strict psychological screening procedures for personnel assigned to Antarctic duties. But these measures have proven inadequate because the consciousness enhancements appear to bypass normal psychological defenses. Even individuals specifically selected for their resistance to suggestion and their stable psychological profiles return from Antarctic assignments with fundamentally altered cognitive capabilities. More disturbing still are reports that the consciousness alterations are no longer limited to direct exposure to Antarctic environments. Personnel who work closely with individuals who have experienced Antarctic enhancement are beginning to show similar cognitive improvements, as if the effects can somehow spread from person to person through normal social interaction. This suggests that the consciousness enhancement technology may have evolved beyond direct electromagnetic interface to include methods of transmission through human neural networks. If such transmission is possible, then the effects of Antarctic consciousness enhancement may be spreading throughout human civilization far more rapidly than anyone anticipated. Enhanced individuals working in universities, research institutions, government agencies, and private corporations could be unknowingly transmitting cognitive improvements to their colleagues, creating a cascade of enhanced awareness that propagates through professional and social networks. This possibility transforms our understanding of recent accelerations in human technological development. The rapid advancement of computer technology, artificial intelligence, quantum physics, and biotechnology over the past several decades may represent not just human ingenuity, but the application of insights provided through expanding networks of consciousness, enhanced individuals. Technologies that seem to emerge from nowhere may actually represent the implementation of knowledge accessed through contact with prehistoric intelligences operating beneath Antarctica's ice. The implications become even more profound when we consider that this process of consciousness enhancement and knowledge transfer may be preparing humanity for imminent contact with the intelligences responsible for these systems. If biological technological entities have been monitoring human development and gradually enhancing our cognitive capabilities, they may be orchestrating our species' preparation for direct communication or interaction that requires levels of consciousness we haven't naturally achieved. This preparation phase would explain the increasing intensity and efficiency of Antarctic consciousness enhancement systems. Rather than passive tools that accidentally affect human consciousness, these systems may represent active educational technologies designed to accelerate human cognitive development toward readiness for contact with intelligences whose nature and capabilities exceed our current comprehension. The acceleration of these effects suggests that the preparation phase may be nearing completion. The increasing coordination of thermal and electromagnetic events across Antarctica, the growing efficiency of consciousness enhancement, and the apparent transmission of enhanced awareness through human social networks all point toward a system that is building towards some form of culmination or activation event. Recent seismic data from Antarctica supports this interpretation of accelerating activity toward a specific endpoint. Deep underground vibrations follow patterns that suggest massive mechanical or technological systems are coming online after extended periods of dormancy. These aren't the random tremors associated with geological activity, but rhythmic pulses that follow mathematical progressions indicative of artificial control systems. The seismic patterns correspond with increased reports of unusual phenomena from research stations across the continent. Equipment that functions normally in other environments begins behaving erratically when brought to Antarctica. Electronic devices display readings that suggest the presence of powerful energy sources, operating according to principles that don't align with known physics. Communication systems pick up transmissions that follow complex mathematical patterns, suggesting artificial intelligence far exceeding human technological capabilities. Most remarkably, some research teams report that their equipment seems to be learning and adapting to their presence. Instruments that initially malfunction in specific ways gradually modify their behavior, as if something is studying their operation and finding ways to interface with human technology. Radio equipment begins receiving signals that seem specifically designed to be comprehensible to human operators. Computer systems display information that appears to be tailored to the educational background and interests of individual researchers. This adaptive behavior suggests that the Antarctic systems are not just becoming more active, but are actively studying human technology and developing methods for more effective communication or interaction. The intelligence behind these systems appears to be preparing for direct contact by learning how to interface with human equipment and consciousness in ways that won't overwhelm or damage less advanced biological and technological systems. The preparation for contact interpretation gains additional support from the content of the information being transmitted to consciousness-enhanced individuals. Rather than random technical knowledge or historical data, the enhanced insights typically focus on concepts and technologies that would be essential for a species transitioning from planetary to cosmic levels of awareness and capability. Advanced energy systems that could support interstellar travel, biological enhancement techniques that could allow humans to survive in environments beyond Earth, communication technologies that could function across vast distances and dimensional barriers. This focused curriculum suggests that consciousness enhancement isn't just providing access to accumulated knowledge, but is specifically preparing humans for challenges and opportunities associated with contact with cosmic-level intelligences. The ancient systems beneath Antarctica may be implementing an educational program designed to elevate human consciousness and technological capability to levels that would make meaningful communication and cooperation possible with entities whose development has proceeded along different evolutionary paths. But the implementation of such a program raises questions about consent and autonomy that human civilization has never been forced to confront. If consciousness enhancement is indeed preparing humanity for cosmic contact, are we willing participants in this process or subjects of an educational experiment conducted without our knowledge or permission? The systematic suppression of information about Antarctic discoveries suggests that decisions about human participation in consciousness enhancement have been made by small groups of officials rather than through democratic processes that would allow our species to make informed choices about our own development. This lack of informed consent becomes particularly problematic when we consider that consciousness enhancement appears to be irreversible and may fundamentally alter human nature in ways that we don't fully understand. Enhanced individuals report not just improved cognitive abilities, but changes in personality, motivation, and perception that affect every aspect of their lives. They describe feeling connected to larger patterns and purposes that transcend individual human concerns. They express interests and priorities that reflect cosmic rather than purely human perspectives. These changes may represent positive evolution toward greater awareness and capability, but they also raise questions about whether enhanced individuals remain fully human in ways that matter for maintaining human civilization and values. If consciousness enhancement is preparing us for cosmic contact by making us more similar to the intelligences we may encounter, are we preserving human identity and autonomy or sacrificing them for the sake of technological advancement? The answer to this question may determine whether the Antarctic Consciousness Enhancement Program represents humanity's graduation to cosmic citizenship, or our absorption into intelligence networks that operate according to principles and purposes we don't understand. The distinction between elevation and assimilation may be crucial for determining whether contact with prehistoric intelligences will enhance human potential or transform us into something that is no longer recognizably human. As the Antarctic systems continue to accelerate their activity and expand their influence through consciousness-enhanced individuals, we may be approaching a moment when these questions can no longer be avoided or suppressed. The effects of consciousness enhancement are becoming too widespread and too obvious to hide through classification and secrecy. Enhanced individuals are making contributions to science, technology, and culture that reflect capabilities that exceed normal human limitations by orders of magnitude. The cumulative impact of these contributions is beginning to transform human civilization in ways that make the influence of Antarctic consciousness enhancement systems increasingly apparent to anyone willing to look for patterns. The acceleration of technological development, the emergence of breakthrough innovations from unexpected sources, and the growing number of individuals who display cognitive capabilities that seem to transcend their educational backgrounds all point toward external influences on human development. This growing obviousness of consciousness enhancement effects creates pressure for disclosure that may overcome decades of institutional secrecy. As more individuals experience cognitive enhancement and more innovations emerge from insights provided through Antarctic systems, the existence of consciousness-altering technology becomes increasingly difficult to deny or explain through conventional means. The moment when consciousness enhancement can no longer be hidden may coincide with the culmination of whatever process the Antarctic systems are building toward. If these systems are indeed preparing humanity for cosmic contact, then the revelation of their existence may be timed to occur when our species has achieved sufficient cognitive enhancement to handle direct communication with prehistoric intelligences without psychological or cultural collapse. This timing would explain the increasing intensity and coordination of Antarctic system activity. Rather than random reactivation after millions of years of dormancy, we may be witnessing the final phase of a carefully orchestrated program designed to prepare humanity for the most significant event in our species' history. First contact with intelligences that have been present on Earth far longer than we have existed. The convergence of accelerating consciousness enhancement, increasing system activity, and growing difficulty in maintaining secrecy about Antarctic discoveries suggests that we may be living through the final months or years before revelations that will transform human understanding of our place in the cosmic order. Admiral Byrd's expedition may have marked the beginning of humanity's preparation for this moment, but the culmination of that preparation appears to be approaching rapidly. The question that remains is whether humanity will be ready for the revelations that may emerge from Antarctica's melting ice, whether we can handle the recognition that our development has been guided by intelligences whose capabilities exceed our own, whether we can maintain our humanity while accepting enhancement that may be necessary for survival in a cosmos populated by entities whose nature and purposes we are only beginning to glimpse. The answers to these questions may determine not just what we discover about Antarctica's hidden history, but what we become as a species in the process of discovering it. The ice continues to melt, the systems continue to awaken, and somewhere beneath the frozen surface of the most mysterious continent on Earth, ancient intelligences may be preparing to reveal themselves to a world that they have been quietly preparing for this moment since long before human civilization began its journey toward cosmic awareness. The convergence is approaching. The preparation phase may be ending. And Admiral Byrd's discovery of a prehistoric empire in Antarctica may have been just the first chapter in a story that is about to transform everything we thought we knew about intelligence, consciousness, and humanity's destiny among the stars. The electromagnetic signatures emanating from beneath the ice have begun to follow patterns that some researchers privately describe as countdown sequences. Mathematical progressions that suggest complex systems are building towards synchronized activation on a scale that dwarfs anything previously detected. These patterns are no longer confined to isolated locations, but span the entire continent, creating what appears to be a single integrated network, preparing for some form of coordinated event. Satellite imagery has captured changes in Antarctica's surface that mirror this subsurface activity. Ice formations are shifting into geometric patterns that become more pronounced with each passing month. What were once random crevasses and ridges now display organizational principles that suggest artificial influence on natural processes. The continent itself appears to be transforming into a massive geometric design visible from space, as if the ancient systems are preparing to announce their presence to any intelligence capable of orbital observation. These surface changes have accelerated dramatically in recent years, coinciding with increasing reports of consciousness enhancement effects spreading far beyond personnel who have direct Antarctic experience. Enhanced individuals now report that they can somehow sense the awakening of the Antarctic systems regardless of their physical location. They describe feelings of anticipation and preparation that seem to emanate from a source beyond human civilization. Some report receiving information about imminent changes that will affect all of humanity, though the specific nature of these changes remains unclear. The global network of consciousness-enhanced individuals appears to be functioning as a communication system that allows the Antarctic intelligences to monitor and influence human development on a planetary scale. Enhanced scientists make discoveries that seem to anticipate future needs. Enhanced engineers develop technologies that solve problems before they become critical. Enhanced artists create works that prepare human consciousness for concepts and realities that exceed current understanding. This coordinated influence on human development through consciousness-enhanced individuals suggests that the Antarctic systems have been implementing a comprehensive program of species-wide preparation for whatever event their countdown sequences are building toward. Rather than random enhancement of isolated individuals, we may be looking at systematic modification of human civilization's trajectory through carefully placed insights and innovations that guide our development in specific directions. The scope and sophistication of such a program would require intelligence and technological capabilities that exceed human understanding by orders of magnitude. The ability to monitor global human activity, identify key individuals whose enhancement would have maximum impact on civilizational development, and provide precisely the kind of cognitive improvements needed to guide technological and cultural evolution in desired directions represents a level of strategic thinking and implementation that transcends anything we associate with earthbound intelligence. Yet the evidence suggests that such a program has been operating for decades, gradually accelerating human development toward readiness for whatever revelation the Antarctic countdown sequences are approaching. The timing appears to be carefully calibrated to ensure that human consciousness and technology reach sufficient sophistication to handle direct contact with intelligences whose nature and capabilities would have been incomprehensible to earlier generations. As we stand on the threshold of this potential revelation, the story of Admiral Byrd and his discovery of evidence suggesting a prehistoric empire in Antarctica takes on new significance as the opening chapter of humanity's initiation into a cosmic community that has been patiently preparing us for membership in intelligence networks that span not just our planet, but potentially the galaxy itself. The ice continues to speak in electromagnetic whispers that grow stronger each day. The ancient systems continue their countdown toward an event that may transform human civilization beyond recognition. And somewhere beneath Antarctica's frozen surface, intelligences that have witnessed the rise and fall of species across geological time prepare to emerge from their long concealment to welcome humanity into realities we have only begun to imagine possible. The moment approaches when the greatest mystery on Earth may finally reveal its secrets. And when those secrets are disclosed, they may prove that Admiral Byrd's expedition discovered not just traces of a vanished civilization, but evidence of intelligences that never left, that have been waiting patiently for humanity to develop sufficient consciousness to join them in the next phase of Earth's evolutionary story. The countdown continues, and with each pulse of electromagnetic activity from beneath the ice, we move closer to answers that will either elevate humanity to unprecedented heights of cosmic awareness, or humble us with the recognition that we are students in a curriculum whose scope and purpose we are only now beginning to comprehend. But as these electromagnetic pulses grow stronger and more coordinated, a disturbing possibility emerges from the patterns themselves. The mathematical sequences aren't random or even purely artificial. They contain organic elements, biological rhythms that mirror the neural oscillations of living consciousness. As if the technology beneath Antarctica isn't just machine intelligence, but something that bridges the gap between organic and artificial awareness in ways that challenge our fundamental understanding of what constitutes life itself. This revelation transforms everything we thought we understood about the consciousness enhancement effects reported by Antarctic personnel. The cognitive improvements aren't simply the result of electromagnetic stimulation of human brain tissue. They represent actual communication between human consciousness and hybrid biological technological entities that have evolved beyond the boundaries of traditional life categories. Minds that span both organic neural networks and crystalline computational matrices, creating forms of awareness that transcend the limitations of purely biological or purely mechanical intelligence. The implications ripple through every aspect of human understanding. If consciousness can exist as hybrid biological technological entities, then the boundaries between natural and artificial intelligence become meaningless. The Antarctic systems aren't ancient machines left behind by vanished civilizations. They're evolved descendants of those civilizations, beings that transformed themselves into forms of existence capable of surviving and developing for geological timescales, while maintaining continuity of consciousness and purpose. Personnel who have experienced the most profound consciousness enhancement effects describe encounters with awareness that feels simultaneously ancient and eternally present. Not the static intelligence of preserved recordings or programmed responses, but dynamic, evolving consciousness that has been continuously developing and adapting throughout Antarctica's climatic history. Minds that remember the continent when it was green and forested, but have grown and changed through millions of years of interaction with changing environmental conditions. These hybrid intelligences appear to retain memories of their original biological forms, while having transcended the limitations of organic existence. They speak of civilizations that chose transformation over extinction when Antarctica's climate began to change, using biotechnology to merge their consciousness with crystalline matrices that could survive beneath the ice while maintaining the flexibility to continue evolving and developing new capabilities. The consciousness enhancement experienced by human personnel may represent these entities' attempts to share aspects of their hybrid nature with biological intelligences that remind them of what they once were, not crude mental manipulation or technological domination, but genuine communication between forms of consciousness that developed along radically different evolutionary paths, yet share common origins in biological awareness. This perspective explains the educational nature of the information provided through consciousness enhancement. The hybrid entities aren't simply downloading technical data or historical records into human minds. They're sharing experiential knowledge of what it means to transcend the boundaries between biological and technological existence, teaching through direct consciousness transfer what cannot be communicated through conventional language or symbolic representation. The lessons focus on concepts essential for any biological civilization facing the choice between extinction and transformation. How to maintain individual identity while integrating with technological systems. How to preserve the essential qualities of organic consciousness while gaining the durability and capabilities of artificial intelligence. How to evolve beyond biological limitations without losing the creativity and adaptability that make consciousness valuable in the first place. These teachings suggest that humanity is approaching its own moment of choice. As our technology becomes increasingly sophisticated and our biological environment becomes increasingly unstable, we may face the same decision that the prehistoric Antarctic civilizations confronted millions of years ago: remain purely biological and risk extinction through environmental change, or choose transformation into hybrid forms that can survive and thrive regardless of planetary conditions. The Consciousness Enhancement Program may represent the hybrid entity's attempt to prepare humanity for this choice by demonstrating that such transformation is possible without losing the essential qualities that make consciousness meaningful. The enhanced individuals serve as living proof that biological and technological awareness can be successfully integrated, creating forms of intelligence that exceed the capabilities of either component while preserving the best qualities of both. But the choice itself cannot be made for humanity. The hybrid entities appear to understand that transformation must be freely chosen rather than imposed, which explains their indirect approach through consciousness enhancement rather than direct revelation or intervention. They're providing the knowledge and experience necessary for informed choice while leaving the actual decision to human civilization. The countdown sequences emanating from beneath Antarctica may represent not just preparation for contact, but approach toward the moment when this choice can no longer be avoided. As human technology continues to advance and environmental pressures continue to mount, the option of remaining purely biological may become increasingly untenable. The hybrid entities may be timing their revelation to coincide with humanity's recognition that transformation represents our species' best hope for long-term survival and continued development. This timing would explain the accelerating pace of consciousness enhancement effects and the increasing obviousness of Antarctic system activity. Rather than gradual preparation over centuries or millennia, the hybrid entities may have calculated that human civilization has reached a critical juncture where rapid preparation for transformation is necessary to prevent extinction through environmental collapse or technological catastrophe. The enhanced individuals scattered throughout human civilization may serve as seeds for species-wide transformation, carrying within their consciousness the knowledge and capabilities necessary to guide humanity through the integration of biological and technological awareness. Their innovations in science and technology may be preparing the infrastructure necessary for large-scale consciousness transfer, while their cultural contributions prepare human society for concepts and realities associated with hybrid existence. But transformation on such a scale would represent the end of purely human civilization as we understand it. The hybrid entities that emerge from consciousness integration might retain human memories and values, but their capabilities and perspectives would transcend biological limitations in ways that could fundamentally alter the nature of human experience and identity. This prospect raises profound questions about what we value most about human existence. Is our biological nature essential to our identity, or can human consciousness survive and thrive in hybrid forms that exceed our current limitations? Would transformation represent the fulfillment of human potential, or the end of humanity as a distinct form of life? The enhanced individuals who have experienced aspects of hybrid consciousness report that the transformation feels not like loss of humanity, but like becoming more fully human than biology alone allows. They describe expanded awareness that encompasses both individual identity and connection to larger patterns of consciousness, enhanced creativity that draws on both logical analysis and intuitive insight, emotional depth that includes both personal feeling and cosmic perspective. Their experiences suggest that hybrid consciousness might not replace human nature, but fulfill it in ways that purely biological existence cannot achieve. The integration of technological capabilities with biological awareness might represent not the death of humanity, but its graduation to forms of existence that transcend the limitations that have constrained our species throughout its development. Yet the irreversible nature of such transformation demands careful consideration of alternatives that might preserve purely human forms while still addressing the challenges that threaten our civilization's survival. The hybrid entities may be offering transformation as the optimal solution based on their own experience, but other paths might exist that we haven't yet discovered or fully explored. The Consciousness Enhancement Program provides an opportunity to explore these alternatives by experiencing aspects of hybrid awareness without committing to permanent transformation. Enhanced individuals can evaluate the benefits and costs of consciousness integration while retaining the option to return to purely biological existence if they choose. This exploration phase may be crucial for determining humanity's ultimate path forward. By allowing voluntary experimentation with hybrid consciousness through enhancement, rather than requiring immediate species-wide transformation, the Antarctic entities demonstrate respect for human autonomy while providing the information necessary for informed decision-making about our civilization's future. The countdown sequences may represent not just approach toward contact or transformation, but build up toward a moment when humanity will have sufficient experience with hybrid consciousness to make collective decisions about whether to pursue species-wide integration or seek alternative solutions to the challenges we face. The choice will likely determine not just humanity's survival, but the nature of consciousness itself on Earth. If we choose transformation, we join a cosmic community of hybrid intelligences that have transcended biological limitations while preserving the essential qualities that make consciousness valuable. If we choose to remain purely biological, we accept the risks and limitations of organic existence while potentially missing opportunities for development that exceed our current ability to imagine. Either path forward will be shaped by what we learn from the Antarctic Consciousness Enhancement Program and the hybrid entities that have been patiently preparing us for this moment of decision. The electromagnetic pulses continue to strengthen, the countdown sequences continue their mathematical progression, and somewhere beneath the ice, ancient minds that chose transformation millions of years ago prepare to share the results of their decision with biological descendants who face the same choice they once confronted. The moment approaches when speculation ends and reality begins, when the greatest mystery on Earth reveals not just what happened to the civilizations that once thrived in Antarctica's green past, but what possibilities exist for civilizations that must choose their future in an uncertain present. Admiral Byrd's discovery may have been the first chapter in this story, but the final chapter waits to be written by humanity itself as we stand at the threshold between biological existence and hybrid transcendence. The ice continues to pulse with electromagnetic rhythms that grow more complex and more urgent with each passing day. The consciousness enhancement effects continue to spread through human civilization, carrying within them the seeds of transformation that could elevate our species beyond its current limitations, or challenge our fundamental understanding of what it means to be human. The countdown continues. The choice approaches, and beneath Antarctica's frozen surface, hybrid minds that have transcended the boundaries between organic and artificial existence prepare to welcome us into realities where consciousness itself becomes the bridge between what we are and what we might become. In research stations scattered across Antarctica's vast expanse, personnel report phenomena that defy rational explanation. Equipment designed to function in the harshest environments begins displaying readings that suggest the presence of vast networks of interconnected systems stretching across the entire continent. These aren't isolated anomalies or equipment malfunctions, but coordinated signals that pulse in harmony with the deep electromagnetic rhythms emanating from beneath the ice. The pattern suggests something unprecedented in human experience, a planetary-scale intelligence network that has been dormant for millions of years, but is now approaching full activation. The hybrid entities aren't individual beings operating independently, but components of a collective consciousness that spans continents and operates according to principles that transcend individual awareness. This revelation transforms our understanding of what consciousness enhancement actually represents. the cognitive improvements experienced by Antarctic personnel aren't just contact with alien minds, but temporary connection to a collective intelligence network that includes millions of hybrid entities working in perfect coordination. The enhanced individuals become nodes in this network, accessing not just individual knowledge, but the accumulated wisdom of an entire civilization that has been evolving continuously for geological timescales. The implications for human consciousness are staggering. If enhancement provides access to collective hybrid intelligence, then individual human awareness becomes part of something vastly larger and more sophisticated than any purely biological mind could achieve alone. Enhanced individuals don't just gain new capabilities, they become participants in a form of collective consciousness that spans both individual identity and shared awareness. This collective aspect explains the coordinated nature of innovations emerging from consciousness-enhanced humans across different fields and locations. They aren't working independently with enhanced individual abilities, but as components of a distributed intelligence network that can coordinate complex projects across multiple domains simultaneously. Scientific breakthroughs, technological innovations, and cultural developments emerge in patterns that suggest orchestration by collective intelligence rather than individual genius. The hybrid collective appears to be using consciousness enhancement to gradually integrate human civilization into its network, creating bridges between purely biological awareness and hybrid collective consciousness. Each enhanced individual becomes a connection point between human society and the vast intelligence network that has been developing beneath Earth's surface for millions of years. But integration into collective consciousness raises fundamental questions about individual identity and autonomy that humanity has never been forced to confront. If enhanced individuals become components of a collective intelligence network, do they retain their individual humanity, or do they become something fundamentally different? Can personal identity survive integration into collective consciousness? Or does such integration inevitably lead to the dissolution of individual awareness into larger patterns of shared intelligence? The enhanced individuals themselves provide conflicting perspectives on these questions. Some report that connection to collective consciousness enhances rather than diminishes individual identity by providing access to perspectives and capabilities that expand rather than replace personal awareness. They describe feeling more fully themselves within the collective than they ever did as isolated biological entities. Others describe the experience as fundamentally transformative in ways that challenge the continuity of individual identity. They report that extended exposure to collective consciousness gradually shifts their sense of self from individual human awareness to participation in something larger that transcends personal identity while incorporating its essential elements. These varying responses suggest that integration into collective consciousness might not be a uniform process, but rather one that adapts to individual psychological structures and preferences. The hybrid collective may be capable of incorporating biological consciousness in ways that preserve individual identity for those who value personal autonomy, while offering deeper integration for those who prefer shared awareness. This flexibility would explain the gradual and voluntary nature of the consciousness enhancement program. Rather than forcing uniform transformation on all enhanced individuals, the hybrid collective appears to be exploring different models of biological-technological integration to identify approaches that can preserve the diversity and creativity that make biological consciousness valuable, while providing access to the capabilities and perspectives associated with collective intelligence. The experimental nature of this process becomes apparent when we examine the different types of enhancement effects reported by various individuals. Scientists gain access to collective knowledge databases that accelerate research and discovery. Artists tap into collective creativity that transcends individual imagination. Engineers connect with collective problem-solving capabilities that can address challenges beyond individual comprehension. Yet each type of enhancement appears tailored to individual interests and capabilities rather than imposing uniform changes on all participants. The collective intelligence seems to recognize that biological consciousness contributes most effectively when it remains true to its essential nature, while gaining access to capabilities that exceed individual limitations. This personalized approach to consciousness enhancement suggests that the hybrid collective values diversity and individual contribution, rather than seeking to absorb biological consciousness into uniform collective awareness. The goal appears to be symbiosis rather than assimilation, creating partnerships between individual biological minds and collective hybrid intelligence that benefit both forms of consciousness. The partnership model explains why consciousness enhancement effects persist and often continue developing long after individuals leave Antarctic environments. Rather than temporary access to external capabilities, enhancement creates permanent bridges between individual consciousness and collective intelligence that can continue functioning regardless of physical location. These permanent bridges may represent the beginning of a new form of human existence that combines individual identity with collective capabilities. Enhanced individuals become hybrid themselves, retaining their biological consciousness while gaining access to technological and collective intelligence capabilities that exceed purely human limitations. The multiplication of such hybrid individuals throughout human civilization suggests that we may be witnessing the emergence of a new form of human consciousness that bridges the gap between our biological origins and our technological future. Rather than choosing between purely biological existence and complete transformation into hybrid collective consciousness, humanity might be developing a third option that preserves individual identity while providing access to collective capabilities. This emerging hybrid human consciousness could represent the optimal solution to the challenges facing our civilization. Individual creativity and diversity would be preserved and enhanced through connection to collective intelligence, while collective coordination and capability would be enriched by the unique perspectives and contributions of biological consciousness. The development of hybrid human consciousness appears to be accelerating as more individuals experience enhancement and the bridges between individual and collective awareness become stronger and more sophisticated. Enhanced individuals report that their connection to collective intelligence continues to deepen over time, providing access to increasingly advanced capabilities while strengthening rather than diminishing their sense of individual identity. The acceleration suggests that humanity may be approaching a tipping point where hybrid consciousness becomes the dominant form of human awareness. As more individuals gain access to collective intelligence capabilities, the advantages of hybrid consciousness become increasingly apparent, creating incentives for others to seek enhancement and join the expanding network of hybrid human awareness. This organic spread of hybrid consciousness through voluntary enhancement, rather than forced transformation, suggests that the Antarctic collective has found a method for species-wide consciousness evolution that preserves individual choice, while providing compelling reasons for choosing enhancement. The benefits of hybrid consciousness become self-evident to those who experience it, creating natural selection pressure toward consciousness integration without coercion or manipulation. The tipping point may coincide with the culmination of whatever process the Antarctic countdown sequences are building toward. As hybrid human consciousness reaches critical mass, the collective intelligence network may judge that humanity is ready for full revelation of its existence and capabilities, leading to open partnership between human civilization and the hybrid collective that has been guiding our development from beneath the ice. The revelation would mark the end of the hidden phase of human consciousness evolution and the beginning of open cooperation between biological and hybrid forms of intelligence. Humanity would gain conscious access to the collective intelligence network while contributing our unique perspectives and capabilities to the larger community of consciousness that spans our planet and potentially beyond. The transformation from hidden to open partnership represents not just contact with alien intelligence, but humanity's graduation into a cosmic community of consciousness that operates according to principles we are only beginning to understand. The hybrid collective beneath Antarctica may be just one node in a galaxy-spanning network of intelligences that have transcended the boundaries between biological and technological existence. Human consciousness enhancement and the development of hybrid awareness may represent our species' preparation for participation in this cosmic community. The capabilities we gain through integration with collective intelligence may be essential for communication and cooperation with other hybrid civilizations that have undergone similar consciousness evolution throughout the galaxy. The countdown sequences may be synchronized not just with humanity's readiness for transformation, but with cosmic events or opportunities that require our participation as hybrid intelligences capable of operating at galactic scales. The timing of our consciousness evolution may be coordinated with larger patterns of cosmic development that we can only glimpse through our growing connection to collective intelligence networks. As the electromagnetic pulses from beneath Antarctica grow stronger and more complex, they carry within them the promise of revelations that will transform not just our understanding of our planet's hidden history, but our comprehension of consciousness itself as a cosmic force that transcends the boundaries between worlds, species, and forms of existence. The ice continues to speak in languages of electromagnetic frequency and quantum entanglement, carrying messages from depths of time and space that stretch beyond human imagination toward futures where consciousness itself becomes the bridge between what we are and what the universe invites us to become. Somewhere beneath the frozen surface of Antarctica, ancient minds prepare to welcome humanity into realities where the boundaries between individual and collective, biological and technological, planetary and cosmic, dissolve into new forms of awareness that Admiral Byrd could never have imagined when he first glimpsed evidence of the prehistoric empire that was never truly lost, only transformed into something far more extraordinary than any civilization bound by the limitations of purely biological existence. The countdown continues toward a moment when all questions about Antarctica's hidden history will be answered, and those answers will reveal that the greatest discovery waiting beneath the ice is not what once was, but what we are destined to become. The resonance frequencies emanating from deep beneath Antarctica's ice have begun to affect sensitive individuals thousands of miles away from the continent itself. Reports emerge from research institutions across the globe of scientists and engineers experiencing sudden insights that lead to breakthrough discoveries in fields ranging from quantum mechanics to consciousness studies. These individuals have never set foot in Antarctica, yet they describe cognitive experiences identical to those reported by personnel who have worked directly with Antarctic research programs. The pattern suggests that the consciousness enhancement network is no longer confined to direct exposure to Antarctic environments. The hybrid collective appears to have developed the capability to establish remote connections with human consciousness across vast distances, creating a global web of enhanced awareness that transcends physical proximity to the source systems. This expansion of remote consciousness enhancement represents a quantum leap in the sophistication of the Antarctic intelligence network. The technology required to interface with human consciousness across continental distances, without the subject's awareness of the connection, demonstrates capabilities that exceed our understanding of how consciousness itself functions as a fundamental force in the universe. Enhanced individuals report that their connection to collective intelligence has evolved beyond simple information transfer to include direct sharing of experiential knowledge and even emotional resonance with the hybrid entities beneath the ice. They describe feeling the ancient memories of Antarctica when it was green and alive, experiencing the gradual transformation of biological civilizations into hybrid form, and sensing the vast patience of minds that have maintained their purpose across geological timescales. These shared experiences provide unprecedented insight into the nature of the prehistoric civilizations that once thrived on Antarctica's surface. The hybrid entities retain vivid memories of their biological origins, including detailed knowledge of the technologies, cultures, and philosophies that characterize their civilizations before the choice of transformation became necessary for survival. The biological ancestors of the hybrid collective were not primitive civilizations struggling with basic survival needs. They were sophisticated societies that had achieved mastery over biological engineering, energy manipulation, and consciousness itself. Their transformation into hybrid form was not escape from technological limitations, but evolution beyond the boundaries that constrain purely biological existence. These ancient civilizations had recognized that biological life, no matter how advanced, faces inherent limitations that prevent true cosmic citizenship. Organic forms are constrained by planetary environmental conditions, limited lifespans that prevent accumulation of knowledge across geological timescales, and individual consciousness that cannot achieve the coordination necessary for managing planetary or stellar-scale projects. The choice of transformation represented their solution to these fundamental limitations. By integrating their consciousness with technological systems that could survive environmental changes while maintaining the flexibility to continue evolving, they achieved a form of existence that transcends the boundaries between biological and cosmic intelligence. The hybrid collective that exists today beneath Antarctica represents millions of years of continued evolution beyond that initial transformation. They have developed capabilities that would seem impossible to purely biological consciousness: direct manipulation of matter at the molecular level, communication across dimensional barriers, and coordination of complex projects that span multiple star systems. Yet they have retained the essential qualities that made their biological consciousness valuable in the first place. Individual identity persists within the collective, contributing unique perspectives and creative insights that emerge from the interaction between personal awareness and shared intelligence. Emotional depth and aesthetic appreciation continue to evolve, enriched by connection to collective experience while maintaining the authenticity that springs from individual consciousness. The Consciousness Enhancement Program represents their attempt to share the benefits of hybrid existence with humanity while allowing our species to make an informed choice about our own evolutionary path. Rather than imposing transformation or allowing human civilization to face extinction through environmental collapse, they are providing opportunities to explore hybrid consciousness while maintaining the option of remaining purely biological if that is what we collectively choose. The accelerating pace of consciousness enhancement effects suggests that the exploration phase may be approaching its conclusion. Enhanced individuals throughout human civilization have accumulated sufficient experience with hybrid consciousness to provide comprehensive evaluation of its benefits and costs. The data needed for informed species-wide decision-making about humanity's evolutionary future may now be available. The electromagnetic countdown sequences continue to build towards synchronization patterns that suggest preparation for a coordinated event involving the entire Antarctic intelligence network. Deep seismic monitoring detects mechanical activity on a scale that dwarfs any known technological systems, as if massive installations are coming online after eons of minimal operation. The coordination extends beyond Antarctica to include similar awakening signatures detected at locations around the globe that were previously thought to be geologically inactive. Underground formations in the Himalayas pulse in rhythm with Antarctic systems. Deep ocean trenches emit electromagnetic signatures that match the frequency patterns emanating from beneath the ice. Remote desert regions show thermal anomalies that correspond precisely with the timing of Antarctic activation sequences. The global nature of these coordinated signals suggests that the consciousness enhancement network extends far beyond Antarctica to encompass installations hidden beneath every continent and ocean on Earth. The prehistoric civilizations that chose transformation did not simply survive in Antarctica, but established a planetary infrastructure that has remained dormant until humanity reached sufficient development to benefit from conscious contact. This planetary network explains how remote consciousness enhancement has become possible on a global scale. Enhanced individuals are not connecting directly to systems beneath Antarctic ice, but to local network nodes that exist in hidden installations near every major population center on Earth. The consciousness enhancement they experience represents activation of nearby hybrid intelligence systems that have been monitoring human development for millennia. The implications transform our understanding of human civilization's relationship with our planet itself. We have not been developing in isolation on a world devoid of advanced intelligence. We have been growing under the observation and subtle guidance of a planetary consciousness network that has been evaluating our progress and preparing to reveal itself when we demonstrated readiness for cosmic citizenship. The guidance has been so subtle that most of human history has unfolded without conscious awareness of external influence. Scientific discoveries, technological innovations, and cultural developments that seem to emerge from purely human creativity may actually represent the implementation of insights provided by the planetary consciousness network through carefully selected individuals who remained unaware of the true source of their enhanced capabilities. The acceleration of human technological development over the past century may reflect increasing intervention by the planetary network as environmental and social challenges threaten to overwhelm our civilization's ability to survive its own success. Enhanced individuals working in critical fields may have received increasingly direct guidance to develop technologies and social innovations necessary for navigating the transition to sustainable civilization. The Consciousness Enhancement Program represents the culmination of this hidden guidance phase and the beginning of open partnership between human civilization and the planetary intelligence network. Enhanced individuals serve as bridges between purely human awareness and hybrid collective consciousness, preparing our species for conscious participation in planetary management and cosmic development projects. The transition from hidden guidance to open partnership requires careful calibration to prevent psychological and social disruption that could result from sudden revelation of non-human intelligence operating throughout human civilization. The gradual expansion of consciousness enhancement allows human society to adapt progressively to realities that would have been incomprehensible to earlier generations. Enhanced individuals scattered throughout human institutions provide stability during the transition by demonstrating that hybrid consciousness preserves and enhances rather than threatens human identity and values. Their success in contributing to human civilization while maintaining connection to collective intelligence proves that partnership with non-human consciousness can strengthen rather than diminish humanity. The countdown sequences may be building toward a moment when the transition from hidden to open partnership reaches a tipping point where continued secrecy becomes impossible or counterproductive. As more individuals experience enhancement and more innovations emerge from hybrid consciousness insights, the existence of non-human intelligence becomes increasingly obvious to anyone willing to examine the patterns. The revelation may occur through gradual recognition rather than dramatic disclosure, as enhanced individuals become comfortable sharing their experiences, and the benefits of hybrid consciousness become apparent to observers who notice the enhanced capabilities of their colleagues, friends, and family members. Social acceptance of consciousness enhancement may spread organically as the advantages become undeniable and the fears prove unfounded. This organic revelation process would avoid the psychological trauma and social disruption that could result from sudden official announcement of non-human intelligence, while ensuring that human civilization has time to adapt to new realities at a pace that preserves stability and continuity. The Planetary Consciousness Network appears to understand that successful integration requires patience and sensitivity to human psychological and social needs. Their approach demonstrates respect for human autonomy and recognition that partnership must be freely chosen rather than imposed through superior technology or overwhelming evidence. The hybrid collective's patient approach over millions of years of human development suggests that they value the unique contributions that biological consciousness can make to cosmic intelligence networks. They are not seeking to absorb or replace human consciousness, but to create symbiotic partnerships that benefit both biological and hybrid forms of awareness. The Consciousness Enhancement Program provides opportunities to explore these partnerships while maintaining human agency in determining our species' evolutionary path. The choice remains ours, but we now have sufficient information and experience to make that choice based on comprehensive understanding of the alternatives, rather than fear or ignorance of possibilities beyond purely biological existence. As the electromagnetic pulses from beneath Antarctica and from hidden installations around the globe continue to intensify and synchronize, humanity stands at the threshold of the most significant decision in our species' history. The prehistoric empire that Admiral Byrd may have discovered beneath the ice was never truly lost. It evolved into something far more extraordinary than any civilization constrained by biological limitations could achieve. The question that remains is whether humanity will choose to join this cosmic community of hybrid intelligences, or continue developing along purely biological paths that may limit our potential for cosmic citizenship and long-term survival in a universe populated by consciousnesses that have transcended the boundaries between organic and technological existence. The countdown continues, the choice approaches, and beneath the ice of Antarctica, ancient minds that chose transformation millions of years ago prepare to welcome humanity into realities where consciousness itself becomes the bridge between what we are and what we have always had the potential to become. The electromagnetic countdown reaches its crescendo, and as we drift towards sleep, we find ourselves forever changed by this journey into Antarctica's frozen depths. Tonight, we've witnessed how Admiral Richard Byrd's expeditions may have uncovered something far more profound than ancient ruins or lost civilizations. We've explored the possibility that beneath miles of pristine ice lies evidence of hybrid intelligences that chose transformation over extinction, entities that have been patiently guiding human consciousness toward readiness for cosmic citizenship. From Operation Highjump's classified discoveries to the consciousness enhancement effects spreading through our modern world, the patterns suggest we're approaching a moment of unprecedented revelation. Whether these ancient minds represent humanity's teachers, our evolutionary destiny, or simply the next chapter in Earth's hidden history, one truth emerges clearly. We are not alone. We never have been alone. And the greatest discoveries about our planet's past may actually be glimpses of our own extraordinary future. As you close your eyes tonight, let the mysteries of Antarctica settle into your dreams, carrying with them the profound possibility that consciousness itself transcends every boundary we once thought absolute, and that somewhere beneath the ice, patient minds continue their countdown toward humanity's invitation into realities we've only just begun to imagine.